start to look at those people, that have been marrying brother and sister for years. For example, I think Cleopatra, one of the daughters of the pharaohs, right? She was, if I remember right, it was 15 generations of marrying brother and sister. So she was the progeny of 15 generations of brother and sister marriage.
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when you hear about, like, the Bushes, right? George Bush is the daddy Bush, let's say. Barbara Bush is his first cousin. And the Walker family, George Herbert Walker Bush, the Bushes and Walkers have been intermarrying for years. There's like Wirt Walker. I'm trying to think. There's a whole bunch of them. And Marvin Bush and all of these. They've been intermarrying Walkers and Bushes for years. And
there was a lot of that in the Kennedy hierarchy, too, wasn't there?
No, I don't think so. They just a whole bunch of them. There were like 15 kids. That's what it was.
Okay.
And in fact, that's kind of interesting because they say old Joe Kennedy was kind of a goat, and he would chase anybody, and his wife was really, bugged by his alliances, let's say, and so there may have been officially 15 kids, but there might have been 150 of them, really.
Yeah. But you're right. The aristocrats, the bankers, the Rothschilds, I know those families are interbreeding for generations.
And see, that's the whole problem. It's like they play life as a game after a point, and so we're the pawns. We're the toys on the board, and we never get the kid off the board. We never get a new shuffle. We never get a new deal. Let's say. It's always this same old game that's been going on since the pharaohs, and I'm just I'm actually. Have you ever heard of the expression the fourth estate?
Of course.
Yeah. So the first three estates were the king, the military, and the church. And you know how those old families would have, like, the first son would become the priest, and the second son would be in the military, and the third son would get to be the emperor or whatever. And or he'd hold back the farm, whatever. He'd run the family fortune. And the idea that they've been running the ancient three estates for years, the fourth estate became very powerful because it was the truth, and you could write down the truth and have it for future generations to double check on. And so the whole idea of the fourth estate had to be created in order to compete against these, the church, the king, and the military. And so these intermarriages of the churches, the kings, and the money they've created all of these problems. Like this ISIS right now, and all of the financial monopolies that are being developed. All of these corporate mergers. For example, you noticed the other day that Safeway got bought up by Albertsons?
I think that happened a long time ago, didn't it?
No, just a few months ago.
Was it? Okay, they've been buying stores from each other for a long time then, because I've seen a lot of signs change over the last several years. Let me ask you something.
Well, I was just going to say that was Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle buys up, and the Quayle family, they've been breeding like quails. Anyway,
okay.
Go ahead.
Didn't know that. I want to get us back on topic. I'm enjoying talking with you, but we've kind of got a little bit of an agenda here tonight. I'd like to kind of get back on track.
Oh, yeah.
You're in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Are you a member of the gay community?
No.
Okay. But you can't live in San Francisco without kind of being surrounded by it.
Well, sure.
Right. Okay. I lived up there myself as well, and like I said, I've had very close friends that were, and so forth and so on. Of the people in the community that you know, whether it's family, friends, or coworkers, do you know anybody in that group that acts like the LGBT activists, trying to push their agenda in your face?
Well, I mean, I actually come from a family that's, my great-great-grandpappy signed the Declaration of Independence. So everything to me revolves around patriotic kind of stuff all the way back then, like
Yeah.
taxation with representation. So if,
Right.
for example, gays are 15% of the population and they're not getting equal taxes spent, toward them, if they're not getting equal justice under the law, then that's a taxation without representation issue.
Right,
And,
but
blacks
when
and
we're
Hispanics
talking
and-
about 1% of the population, the reason I ask this,
Oh, no, it's not 1%. That's never been true. You go to sexual science courses in the colleges, they've been, in fact, somebody was telling me once that they're actually 1/3 of the population of the world have more than 3 nipples. And, there's all, and
somebody once told me doesn't make it a fact, my friend.
well, I mean,
Okay?
that's supposed to
And
be out of a
anything you get
sexual-
out of a college course has to be taken with a ton of salt. Let's be clear on that. The CDC, who does do surveys and does track the process, does extensive surveys. It's the CDC themselves that state that the population that identifies as gay or lesbian is at 1.8%. That is the official United States line. That's not Obama's most of the people, this, that, and the other thing. These are the factual numbers.
Well,
Okay?
I can't even believe that, because the Kinsey report came out with 15% like 60 years ago. This was when there was a time when everything was even more hidden. So for it to be 1.8%, that's preposterous. And see, the other thing that gets into it, this actually, I'm more scientific than getting caught up in this religious fervor. And
Yeah.
when you look, there's a book that got written a few years ago called Our Stolen Future, and it was looking at the changes in kids in the last few decades, that pollution was actually like melting the kids' gonads. If you take like a little baby and you put them on a brand new carpet and you let them play on it for 6 months, those outgassed carpets are going to like ruin its sexual organs and its eyes and its soft tissue. And so we're actually creating eunuchs more commonly than we would like to admit, because there's so much pollution in our environment. These cheap plastic toys that babies are chewing on, they're poisoning the babies, and they're giving them ADD and soft tissue damage. And
Yeah,
so,
thank you, China.
yeah, and thanks to pharmaceutical companies, and
Yeah.
thanks.
Hey, listen, my friend. Will you stick around?
Sure.
We've got a hard break, and we'll have you come back. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Tom O'Halloran has a not-so-common core spelling lesson for the Obama administration. Ready? There is no K in America.
There's kids that can't pray in school, $100 tanks of gas. I can tell you right now, this country ain't supposed to be like that. No, that ain't my America. That ain't this country's roots. You wanna slam, hold on to Sam, but I ain't letting you. Yeah, I'm mad as hell, and you know I still bleed red, white, and blue. They ain't us, and that ain't my America. Oh no, that ain't my America. No, 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 no. That ain't my America.
And welcome back. This is Patriot Radio. I'm your host, Tom O'Halloran, and with me on the phone is my good friend and brother, Patriot, Bill Perryman. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. He's at BillPerryman.com. At Bill Perryman. That's Periman. Bill, you still with me, brother?
Sure am, Tom. Thanks.
All right, good show. I heard from my board operator that we lost our call, so we're going to move on. Next item up under the same agenda, the Al Qaeda website, you'll find the story. Since the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed thanks to Obama and his grand design to destroy our military, A young man entering the military has a 10 times greater chance of being raped once he enters the military than he does in society. That's a 1,000% increase of risk. In 2012 alone, there were an estimated 14,000 reports of male rape. 14,000. This is all thanks to Obama's turning our military into a social experiment.
Mm.
It's horrible.
Ruining morale.
It ruins more. It does a lot more than just ruin morale. And this is not to say that male rape is any worse than female rape. Okay, I'm not saying that, people. Rape is rape. It's not about sex. It's about power. I get that. But up until Obama opened the floodgates to allow gays to openly serve, rape very, very rarely happened, because if it did happen, the rapist would be thrown out of the military. Now you can be openly gay and it doesn't matter. So they're getting away with it. And just like when women get raped, most of it doesn't get reported. Because if you do report it, you'll end up ruining your career. So you have to keep working alongside the people that rape you. Is that an incredible number, 14,000, Bill?
That's incredible. But I did take part in something I heard today on the radio, was a comparison of George Bush and Barack Obama doing that meeting that they normally do with the Marines. Mm-hmm. And they played the tape. They played the tape of George Bush, and it sounded like the Beatles at Shea Stadium. Yep. The riot. I mean, it was loud applause. Absolutely. Barack Obama shows up today, and I think 4 people applauded.
Yeah, it was like a golf clap.
It was
like a golf clap. I used to work for a guy when the boss came up to address the sales staff. He'd get an applause and it'd be like a golf clap, and he'd say, "Thank you for that smattering round of indifference." That's what Obama gets.
Yes.
He's not respected. He's not respected by the leader, by the people. He's not a leader.
No.
And as these rapes become more prevalent, as people learn about them, young men aren't going to sign up to go in the military. Who wants to take 1,000% increase in risk of being raped when you know that you're not going to be able to do anything about it? Only 7% of the people ever get prosecuted. It's absolutely horrible. And I hope and I pray that when this president is gone, they will undo that and bring back at least don't ask, don't tell, if not the complete refusal. There was a story about one guy who was in the Army from 2002 to 2007. He said, "I actually let the assault go because I didn't want it to interfere with my career. I wanted to be an officer, and I just said, bad experience, won't let that happen again." But a month and a half later, he was brought into a room with 9 officers, and he was told, "You've been tested positive for HIV." And he was processed. He was processed out within hours. He gets raped, keeps quiet about it to keep his career, and then he loses it because he got HIV in the rape. That almost sounds like Sharia. You get raped, you report it, they stone you. Oh, jeez. Next up, we talked about Chase Bank a couple of months back. They started doing a survey several years ago about your orientation, this, that, and the other thing. And what it's trying to do is make sure that they have enough managers that are an ally of the LGBT community. Even if you don't identify, will you openly embrace it? Not just say it, keep your mouth shut, but will you praise people for coming out and so forth and so on? So they're doing their survey and they're asking people this. But what it's doing is it's finding people that aren't.